Hey, good morning. It's mid-February, Valentine's Day, in fact. And I'm getting ready to brew a Belgian Dark Strong, not to be confused with the Belgian Quad, even though according to the BJCP Beer Judge Certification Program, they are kind of the same thing, but there's also other literature within inside of that body that will tell you the ABV can vary a little bit. So I'm not going to get off into the weeds, but I'm just going to read a little bit here to you off my phone. Got a cheat sheet. So according to BJCP guidelines, the Belgian Dark Strong Ale is listed under category 26D, also referred to as a quadruple or quad. It's a dark, complex, very strong ale featuring rich malt, dark flavors, dark fruit flavors, and spicy phenols. It's characterized by high carbonation, a creamy mouthfeel, and a smooth alcohol finish with an ABV of 8 to 11%. Now, some of the guidelines I've seen say that one of the two, because I consider them two different ales. I consider a quad like an amber color, maybe even slightly pale. I've seen that a lot. And I consider a dark strong dark. That's what I mean when I say I don't get off into the weeds when it comes to following the BJCP guidelines, which, to be fair, if you're going to enter it in a competition, you kind of need to be within the guidelines, but if it's good, it's good, so who cares? So anyway, I've seen all the way up to 14%. I think on the Dark Strong, I could have that backwards. I really try to stay out of that range. I found that 10% for big beers is kind of a sweet spot for me. Even up to 12 on a quad, but again, I try to stay closer to 10. So anyway, that's a little bit of information there about what we're doing today. We're doing the Dark Strong. I've got some dark candied syrup. It's kind of, you've seen me use this before in my Golden Strong, I believe. So what we've got here is called D240. It's called Premium XX Dark Candy Syrup. It's contains beet sugar and water. And I'm pretty sure it's a product of Belgium. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So we're using 2 pounds, which is the same thing I did maybe in my Golden Strong. Anyway, that's where we're at. We're heating up our strike water and getting some hot water as well for sanitation purposes on the pumps. Gonna get our grains in, get it mashed in. It's a little bit warmer today than it was when I brewed the triple. I don't know if you saw that video or not, but if you did, I mashed in a little bit lower than I wanted to, but everything worked out fine. It cleaned up all the way down to 1.002, I believe, which gave me 8.1% ABV, which for a triple is great. I talk about that a little bit in the triple video. So anyway, that's what we're doing. We're going to try to mash in 148, 149, maybe even 150. So we're going to heat our strike water up close to 185 because the mash tun stays in the garage, which is cold. So that obviously affects what happens when you put the hot water in. It has a tendency to cool a little bit quicker than normal, and you end up with not the temperature that you are looking for. Anyway, it should be a fun day, and yeah, we'll bring you some clips from time to time. We don't want to get too long with these videos because it's easy to do. So see you soon. All right, we've got our grains in our mash tun. Oddly enough, I brought the water up to like 184, which is pretty much what I did the last time. And I ended up with a lower mash temperature than I wanted, and for some reason this time it was higher. So I basically just recirculated for about 10 minutes and got it down to 150. So that's going to be just about right, because we're mostly going for short chain sugars. I've mentioned before, when you mash in above 154, or at 154 to 158, you're going to get long chain sugars, which are hard to ferment, and that's not what we want with this style. One other comment about this Belgian candied syrup. I wasn't able to get 2 of what I wanted. I'm using 2 pounds. Normally I'll use this one right here. I just like the flavor profile of this. It's hard to describe. It's sweet, almost maybe a little bit like prune and plum, just a really nice combination. And this here is something that I've never used before, and that's giving me kind of a light molasses flavor, which is not what I really want, but it'll be okay. This beer would be pale in color, or at least amber, closer to pale probably, because I've got mostly Pilsner malt, some Vienna malt, which is very pale. Pilsner malt is very pale. Vienna malt has a slight color to it. And then Special B, which is it's the magic, really, in my opinion, for big Belgian beers and even big English beers. That's kind of a grain that I really, really like. You'll get some raisin and maybe like a little bit of date, maybe. Dried plum, which is basically a prune. So yeah, good stuff there. But when we add this D240, it's basically referring to color. It's I think with this, just as with beer, you'd go with SRM. So that's going to impart a dark color to the beer, hence or therefore what I call a Belgian Dark Strong. So anyway, sorry to ramble if I'm doing that, but just like to share information, because you're always learning to some extent when you don't brew a style all the time. The last time I did this was 2019, or it might have been 2020. Anyway, a bunch of years ago. So it's you just have to kind of refresh yourself and remind yourself, and I definitely need to brew it more often, and probably will. So we'll let this mash in for about an hour, and then we'll start recirculating, which is referred to as Vorlauf, and then we'll sparge and transfer to the boil kettle as always and start that process. Okay, we're mashed in, and we're starting the recirculation process just to filter out some of the fines, and then we'll do a sparge like I mentioned earlier. I can't remember if I said or not, but we had about 18 pounds of grains, so 7 gallons of water. Strike water is basically what we used. That's basically 1.5 quarts times 18 gives you whatever it gave me, and then I divided it by 4 and came up with 6.75 gallons of water. So just keeping you updated there, and like I said, it's the same thing over and over with this. It's just a different style that I brew, and I'll basically recirculate this until it's pretty clear. Right now it's kind of a little bit cloudy, which is normal. But we're just trying to filter all the sediments through the grain bed and through the bag to start with something as clear as possible. Just trying to keep it clean the whole way through. All right, we're pretty much done with the sparge for the most part, and transferring into the boil kettle. I want to just show you a little bit through the hose. kind of the color of this beer prior to this candy syrup going in, which would be like the normal color for what I would consider a quad.
See, it's kind of slightly pale, maybe a little brown, but more pale than anything. Might have a little bit of an amber tint to it, actually, but super pale.
Or not super pale, but definitely pale. So anyway, you'll see kind of how it changes after the boil. The boil will impart a little bit of colors, because we're going to go probably a little bit longer on this boil. It's not going to change the color that much, but anyway, this candy syrup will, and when I take a gravity reading, you'll see kind of what it actually looks like as I create my version of a dark strong. All right, we finished up with the boil. We had our 2 hop additions, one with 60 minutes to go, one with 10 minutes to go. We also put in a Whirlflock tablet with 10 minutes to go, and our 2 pounds of Belgian dark candy syrup. Now we've got it going into the fermentation vessel, or bucket, if I'm honest. I'm going to show you what that looks like, and you can see how it darkened up a little bit too. And I use that strainer to catch any grains that might have gotten through, and also to aerate the wort, which will help it with oxygen for the yeast. So that's why we're doing that. All right, so we're in the fermentation vessel bucket, and let me show you what we got here with the color. You can see how it's darkened up a good bit with this dark candy syrup, and also our original gravity is 1.070. Hoping to end up with about a 9% quad, which would prefer a 10, but I've got some extra. Got a little extra water in it to get a little extra beer out of it, so that's part of it. And you know, honestly, 8.5–9% is plenty, that's for sure. So here's what we got on the hydrometer. All right, so this is as you've seen with the other videos, it's kind of a 3-phase deal. We have brewing and phase 1, phase 2 would be fermentation, and then phase 3 would be packaging and maturation. So yeah, we'll keep following up. We're going to be doing some packaging next weekend on the triple, and also on a sour ale, a blended sour ale that I'm working on, that's going to be going to a competition. I've actually got 6 beers going to a competition, a national competition here coming up pretty soon. So that should be fun. We'll see what we get with all of those, and we'll have plenty going on between now and then. So yep, see you soon, and like and subscribe if you like. Hey, what's going on? Getting ready to package my quad. Wood aged, just basically meaning I put some spirals in there, wood spirals in there. And I'm going to pull those out here in just a little bit and show that to you. The finishing gravity on this was 1.010, and starting gravity was 1.070, I think, something like that. All right, so picking up where I left off, it was indeed 1.070 for the original gravity. It finished at 1.012 for a 7.5% ABV quad. That is definitely on the low end, and then some. I would say 9 would be the low end and 13 would be the high end, which, as long as it tastes like a quad, it's okay. I think a little more alcohol would balance the wood a little bit better. It's definitely, the wood in it is pronounced. I think it's going to be fine. Carbonation's going to help there. So what you're ultimately looking for is a balance, a combination of especially when you're doing wood. You've got to have some maltiness, not necessarily maltiness, but some sort of residual sweetness and flavors, which I do have some residual sweetness, so that's nice. Going with a higher carbonation again. So yeah, let me show you what these wood spirals look like. I can't remember if I showed you the cubes, but a cube is basically a cube, you know, about the size of a dime. These spirals, you get more coverage, so you can extract more wood flavor in a shorter period of time. So here's what they look like. So you see you've got this, the whole outward section of it that's going to get coverage, and then you've got these notches carved in, so you get coverage, extra coverage. This is my first time using these, and I don't know, we'll see how the beer comes out. I definitely wish it was closer to 9.5% ABV, at least 9, but it is what it is, which I did add a little extra water to this one to get a higher volume. I've got right at 5.5 gallons, when if I had to focus on a 5-gallon batch, I would have about 4.5 gallons to package. So that would probably give me another 1.5, maybe 2% ABV if there was a gallon less water. I'm sure it would definitely give 1.5 to 2, maybe 2.5. But anyway, it's fine. It's neither here nor there. Flavor and quality and balance, smoothness. Yeah, that's what we're going for, and if the ABV is a little bit low, so what? So yeah, that's pretty much the story here with the wood-aged quad, and it's going to be in the bottle conditioning for, I don't know, I probably won't wait 12 weeks, but something like that is kind of going to be the sweet spot. We might taste it at 8 weeks, and I'll bring you that, the taste. All right, jumping back in here with this wood-aged quad. So what I decided to do, since I've been doing some blended ales with sours recently, something I've always wanted to do was, let me back up just a minute. So I've had a red wine barrel-aged quad by a brewery in Knoxville, Tennessee, a Bridged Beer Company, and it's phenomenal. It's something that's kind of a, you have to taste it to really understand it. It's a blend of, a mix of wine and beer, and not just regular beer, but Belgian style beer. So that's the next level, which kind of marries well with wine in my opinion. So what I ended up doing was, I didn't use a whole bottle of Pinot Noir from the Willamette Valley in Oregon. If you've never had Oregon Willamette Valley Pinot Noirs, you're missing out. Not something that I gravitate to. I like to stick with beer, but as far as wine goes, fantastic. So I basically blended about 3/4 of a standard 750 milliliter bottle into my 5.5 gallons of low ABV quad. So two things here. This is going to add some character, some ABV to try to balance some of the wood, which I think we've done nicely. I tasted it at half a bottle and decided to add another 1/4. I think I would probably stick with half a bottle, but I'm certain that with the carbonation, it's going to blend, it's going to marry well. It would have been fine either way, I think, but we've got what we've got now, and I'm definitely more optimistic about this going into the bottle than I was. So it just worked out. Had a nice bottle of wine, and yeah, that's what we're doing. So of course we'll keep you updated. Very excited about this. All right, just a quick follow-up here. Definitely finished packaging the red wine barrel quad, even though we know it wasn't aged in a barrel. We're simulating that. So anyway, let me show you what we've got. Thanks for watching.